This kitchen renovation started almost 20 years ago, so it's about time to finally bring it to completion.
Awesome! We are getting started.
I've been helping homeowners improve their homes for a lot of years. They think it's intimidating, but it actually can be a lot of fun.
And we're here to help.
Good job, look at there.
Dad's the expert, but I've learned a few things along the way.
Practical, realistic home improvement information is what today's homeowner is all about. Over the last 20 years, this house has been home to the Estes family. Now Chris and Michelle's daughter is off at college and they have the place to themselves.
And our original intent was to stay here about 4 or 5 years, but we fell in love with the house, fell in love with the neighborhood, and just started doing remodel projects on the house.
We were just like, oh my gosh, it's 20 years later and we still haven't finished our bucket list, and guess what? It's time to remodel again. And we're now at a point where we need help.
Well, you said you were in the middle of a project. It looks pretty finished to me.
Yeah, what have y'all already done?
We redid all our walls with shiplap. We resurfaced all of our cabinets.
It's been ongoing for quite some time.
20 years.
Not quite that.
That's quite some time.
We've got these old countertops that I installed 15 or so years ago, and we want to replace them with some wood butcher block, put in a new sink, and what we want to do is figure out a way to take the butcher block and connect it to the existing tile backsplash. She's concerned about yanking the countertops out and the sink out and not having a sink for a while.
You're pretty committed when you do that.
You are pretty committed, right?
So really then just countertops, and what type of sink did you have in mind?
So we've got an apron sink, a stainless apron sink that, looking at the package, it's going to require the front part of this countertop being cut out and some of the cabinets being cut out.
And when we do the butcher block, I'd like to see if we can extend it to go all the way down to a bar.
Oh, really?
Oh, that's nifty.
So we could take advantage of the view out.
Yeah,
That's
nice.
a great idea.
I thought it would be nice, that way we can sit out and look at the pool and enjoy the pool. And we like to entertain, so we thought that would be a nice little entertainment space where we could put food and people can come up and just hang out and enjoy
the buffet
it.
line, I like that.
Yeah, you like
there
that?
you go.
You already have a sink in mind?
I've already bought the sink in
you
mine.
already bought
It's been sitting in the kitchen floor for a little while.
Nice, big,
Just
healthy
a
sink.
little while.
Little.
Kind of like the butcher block countertops that are sitting in our living room.
Oh, you already have the butcher block countertops as well.
4 slabs in the living room, ready for you.
Ready to go.
It sounds like they're pretty anxious to go here.
I think so. We forgot our tool belts today, though. Sorry.
A few days later, after grabbing our tool belts, we're ready to get started. Well, it's going to be a good day. We'll be able to get the countertops out, electrician dropping by. A lot of things will take place today, but if we can move this back, this makes for a perfect little work spot instead of cutting inside the house or in the patio area.
Oh yeah, sounds great.
Chris, since you installed all these countertops a few years ago, you can take them apart since you know where all the screws are. Actually, you can do one in each hand.
Double fisted.
You know, it's kind of fun when a homeowner realizes they've overdone a project.
Something calls for 1 or 2 screws. I typically put about 6 or 8.
Is that right?
So
Well,
I'm gonna need some help with this.
Well, good. We should have the countertop off in a couple days then. So.
I forgot how many there really were. There were a lot. Climbing up under the counters 20 years later, it was much more difficult. Whoever installed these countertops, I wouldn't hire them if you're ever looking for some help.
I heard it takes them a while to get to the job.
It's always so funny to see what different homeowners dislike about their house, and Michelle seems to really dislike the ceiling medallion.
That is some thick caulk, girl. If you look at this, it's about 2 inches thick of caulk. So we may need a little bit
Like
heavier
we might have
tool
to cut it out.
Yeah,
If you want it gone, we'll get it gone, girl.
for sure.
Just hold the blade like kind of flush with the ceiling,
Okay,
and then just pull the trigger.
and off we go. Well, I like this tool.
You can
Whack it.
tap it more and pry it off. Yeah. There you go.
Timber. I'm excited. 1983 called. They want their medallion back.
Let's just grab and lift up on it a little bit. Oh, that's good. It's okay. All right, we're good now. We'll have to lift it up to get the sink out over it. All right, now tilt it back the other way. Beautiful.
Yay! Awesome! started.
Look at this.
That's so handy.
That's artwork there.
That's me.
That's cute.
I had used paint stirrers, paint sticks, pieces of plywood to get that exact height under the countertops.
Why buy shims when you can use paint stirrers for free?
Oh, you can use those wooden paint stirrers for just about anything. Matter of fact, we should really write a book for 101 ways to use a paint stick.
Are there that many?
There will be by the time we get the book ready.
The last step before finishing a woodworking project or when you're refinishing a piece of furniture is to sand it really well. In this case, I have this prop that I sanded with an orbital sander, then I finished it with some hand sanding. But before you stain it, you want to make sure you can detect any defects, whether they're sanding swirl marks or scratches, because if you look at this, it looks pretty good, right? It looks almost perfect. But we're going to find out if that surface is perfect with this simple solution. I took a cup and I added a few ounces of mineral spirits, then I put in just a few drops of the stain we're going to be using. Then I'm going to test this piece of wood to see how clean it is, how scratch-free it is, by dipping cloth in the stain, make sure you're wearing rubber gloves, and wipe it on. And let's see what we can discover here. See these vertical lines? You know what that's caused from? That's from a sticker. I remember there was a sticker here that the manufacturer put there. Here's a big old scratch too right there. I didn't see that before. So by pre-staining it like this, it gives you a really good idea of where the defects are, where the flaws are. So you just let that dry for a few minutes, come back and sand it again, paying particular attention to any flaws or defects, and you'll have a nice smooth piece of wood ready for the final coat of stain.
We're helping Chris and Michelle complete their kitchen renovation, and it's time to decide on the height and the size of the new bar top we'll be adding under the window.
So, best way to do it is for you to sit down.
Okay.
That way we'll know what our limitations are. So if you're looking at this right here, that would be around 36 inches high. Your countertop would be there.
Okay, so I think maybe
That's pretty low.
it's pretty low.
But we could go 41 if we tucked it right under there. But what about the width of this thing? Since you have the raw countertop like that, we can make it anything you want, and it doesn't have to match that.
So for bar areas, what's a normal
16.
16?
16 or 18.
Chris, do you like an 18 or 16?
Or 18.
16's fine, I think.
I think 18.
I think 18 too.
Okay.
I was,
Y'all win.
I was going on
Not to
18.
be persuasive or anything,
Right.
but
The new bar top that we're putting under this window is going right up underneath the window sill, so we need to remove this apron before we can get the bar installed.
But before we add any supports for the bar, our electrician Jeremy arrives to install the fixtures Michelle has already purchased.
So I bought 3 of these, but we can look at the spacing and see if we just need 2. When we got in there, we realized that 2 would be just the perfect amount for 3 bar stools.
Ordinarily, I'd freehand this crosscut, but not on a countertop. These edges need to be perfect, so I'm using a saw edge guide from Woodcraft to cut these as straight as an arrow.
Cutting this wood, you only get one shot. So I was relying on Danny's measurement and cutting.
all right, that's one. We've got several more to go.
After we complete the cuts for the countertop sections, we also cut a piece of the butcher block for the bar section. Then we're ready to dry fit them.
Danny and I did quite a bit of dancing with countertops, with the sink. Seems like every time we came in the room, he was on the left when he should have been on the right, and I was on the right and should have been on the left. Do-si-do.
You know, anytime you're installing any kind of solid countertop, whether it's wood or granite or quartz, whatever, you're always looking for the right place to put the seam. Here, we're putting the seam right in the middle because the apron sink will be cut out all the way to the front, so you won't see any of this, and all you'll see is just a little tiny piece right in the back, and no one will ever notice that.
Once the sink cutout is made in the countertop, we have to mark and cut the cabinets to accommodate the depth of the sink. Fortunately, it leaves just enough of the rail above the cabinet doors.
What do you think of the sink?
Oh, I love it.
Is that what you were looking for?
I'm kind of overwhelmed.
And you don't have to worry about hot tub or anything like that. You can just take it easy there. It's big enough.
So if the bathtub ever goes out, you could always use the sink?
I could. I can't wait to bathe my whole dog. Stick him right in. He's just gonna flip, 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 flip right around.
I've almost got one more thing off the list.
20 years. Here we go.
Before we can install these tops, we take them back outside so Chelsea and Michelle can begin the sanding and finishing process.
All right, so we have everything sanded with 220 grit sandpaper.
Okay.
And, you know, the higher the number on the sandpaper, the finer the grit. So you're gonna get a smoother finish.
Okay.
So now we're gonna move up to 320, just since we're dealing with countertops, we want it to be really, really smooth. And the sealer we're using, you don't have to sand between coats. So we wanna, this is
gonna be it.
Yeah.
So make it smooth and then apply the sealer.
Right.
So before, when you installed your countertops, you had all those interesting little strips of plywood around there to attach them.
And lots of screws.
Yeah, lots of screws, and this is the way it's normally done.
So the paint stir sticks have a whole lot more character than the corner braces.
Okay.
However, Danny putting those corner braces in was pretty ingenious.
Okay, so we're gonna put the sealer on with these pads,
Okay.
and you wanna be very generous. Don't be stingy.
I will not be stingy.
Okay, so we'll need to wear our respirators while we're doing it.
Okay.
But after the vapors evaporate, then it's non-toxic and it'll be food safe.
We started putting that base coat of oil on. It transformed to something from a snail to a princess. It just absolutely transformed that wood to something that is just unimaginable how beautiful it is.
There's nothing handier than having a staple gun around the house to help you with all of your projects that you might need it for. But I'll be honest with you, the older models are a little bit harder to trigger when you're using it, and also it's a little difficult to load the staples in the back with that spring that just doesn't want to lock into place. Well, DeWalt has heard our cries for help, and they have created this. This is their Tacker, and it is a staple gun, and it's also a brad nailer as well, right, Dan?
Yes, it is. It will do both. It is actually made of carbon fiber, which is a lighter product, 50% lighter.
And it's easier to use. Look, it's 25% easier to staple. How about that? Another feature that I love is, look at this. You load the staples from the bottom. You don't have to sit there and try to fight it in the back with that crazy spring. Look, now you're ready to go. I mean, what more can you ask for? So if you're looking to get a staple gun or maybe upgrade the one you have, this is a great choice.
Chris and Michelle's kitchen renovation has been dragging on for years, so we're helping them bring it to completion.
Awesome!
The new pendant lights are in, so at the start of day 2, I began repairing the hole from the old fixture. You know, we get so many questions about drywall problems, and if you have a hole in your drywall, whether you've removed a light fixture like we have here or you have some type of damage, you have to square it off, put a little blocking in like we did here so that it's the exact thickness of the drywall you're using. Then you can install the drywall and put your screws in and then do the typical taping and joint compound application like you normally do.
Chelsea, let me show you about this pot rack. I want you to help me see where I could possibly hang
On this
it.
brick, okay. Well, I would think, because it's kind of, since you have a galley kitchen, that you would want it to be a little bit higher. So we have to put the holes in the mortar joints. The reason you want to use mortar joints is because it's so much easier to drill into than old school oven-made bricks.
While Chelsea and Michelle finish assembling and mounting the pot rack, Chris and I began adding braces inside the cabinets to support the new sink. You know, the stainless steel sink really didn't weigh that much, but think about all of the water that could get in there. At about 8 pounds per gallon of water,
Oh, yeah,
that
and
could
dishes.
get really, really heavy. So those extra supports, real important. Now we're ready to install the countertops for good, once we apply some construction adhesive.
So using this adhesive will somewhat eliminate the pound or two of screws I would typically put in.
You can eliminate a full pound of screws now.
Danny gave me a good bit of grief on this project with the amount of screws I wanted to use. However, Danny's plan worked. He came up with a plan to use a lot less screws and a lot less work.
I could probably find a way to get some screws in there.
I know.
Once the tops are in place, we remount Michelle's old faucet in the new sink. Apply some sealant around the counter lip, and the sink is finally going in.
I think she's gonna fit just fine.
Now we're onto the backsplash.
So Danny's pretty confident in his measuring and cutting abilities.
All right, I think we're ready to put this first piece up. I'll go ahead and get some adhesive on it and we can slip it right in place.
Wait. Don't you think we might ought to dry fit this thing first?
Come on, Chris. Now you know.
Did you see, Chris, how he doubted me that one time? Now, he might have doubted me more than once. I'm pretty confident.
All right.
Okay.
You trust your cuts?
I trust my cuts.
This adhesive looks like the real deal.
It
and
is.
Once it's there, it's there.
I was insulted.
Oh.
Now, the edge of this countertop is perfectly straight. You put it up against a 75-year-old wall, it's normally not quite as straight, but in this case, that backsplash took care of all of that.
Look at that.
Next, the bar under the window. You know, it's pretty easy to support the bar section because we had the back wall, then we had the side wall, and then we had the counter over here. So 3 sides taken care of. I think one little support in the middle, and we'll be good.
I like it, just like any shelf, really.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Michelle mentioned that she wanted some shelves over on this wall near the bar, but shelves, that's such a big topic. I'm gonna help her narrow down exactly what she wants with these props. I know you had mentioned the possibility of floating shelves. So
Would love to have some.
Some cardboard. I thought that would float really well.
I think it'd be good. Can't hang anything on it, but it'd work well.
Yeah, exactly. But what I was thinking is we would figure out the depth of the shelves.
Okay.
And then how we want to hang them, if we want to stagger them, if we want to stack them on top of each other, center it on the wall.
I didn't think about the staggered look. I think that may look really well.
Oh.
So I wanted something that I could put a family picture up, a small plant, and offsetting each other is gonna be a really good idea.
Okay, and then do you like the length? This is 24 inches.
I like the length.
So I'm gonna figure out with Dad how we're gonna make them float.
Okay.
But we won't actually use the cardboard. We'll use the scraps from your countertop.
You sure?
Is that okay?
I mean, I think I could. I
think
work
this
with
matches.
This. It does match.
It goes with the room.
So what did you and Michelle decide on those shelves?
We're gonna do 2 shelves. I think they're gonna be 6 inches deep.
And use this material?
That's what I'm hoping.
Oh, man,
but
that's nice.
we want it to be 24 inches wide.
Yeah,
This is 25 1/4.
close enough.
I think so too.
We save a cut. Okay. Well, what about hanging it? Are you going to make the little brackets out of this, or do you?
I've seen floating shelves with dowels, but they were always made from scratch shelves, not using
Yeah.
a piece of finished wood. So what do you think about that?
Well, it's pretty heavy, but I think we have some 1/2-inch dowels, so we could really use the drill press and
Get a nice
really
clean
carefully
drill, yeah.
drill them in and put 2 in, and we'll have to put them 16 inches apart.
Right.
So that we can get them into the studs, but I think that'll look awesome.
Okay, so table saw?
Yeah, table
Okay.
saw first. Let me go set it up.
So after we drill the holes in our shelf boards and set the dowels in for the glue to set up, we line up the dowels with our studs on the wall, mark it, and drill matching holes into the studs. That way the dowels go into the studs, holding it all in place.
All right. Chris and Michelle's kitchen renovation has been going on for decades. So even their past improvements have become dated, and they didn't fit their new lifestyle as empty nesters. But with a few simple changes, we've given the room an entirely new feel. The new wood countertops add a warmth and style that was missing before our work began. The new kitchen sink is not only enormous, its clean lines and contemporary style give the kitchen new life and vitality. And the bar and pendant lights we've added in front of the window extend that feeling throughout the whole space, while making the kitchen better suit Chris and Michelle's lifestyle. Plus the floating shelves and the pot rack give the room even more style. And we did it all in just 3 days, not 20 years, with less than $1,500 in materials.
I really feel like those countertops just brought that kitchen to life.
The kitchen has been, it's ongoing since we moved in.
It has been an ongoing
And we never
project.
could just get to the point where we could finish it. And having Danny on hand as my guide was great. It got us over that hump to get it finished. It turned out fantastic, more than we could have hoped for.
We're just so thankful.
You know, this is a scenario we run into quite a bit where homeowners have started a project and need just a little assistance completing that project. Well, I'm glad Chelsea and I were able to give them a little bit of inspiration and a little bit of help to wrap everything up. And I hope we've been able to provide you that same kind of inspiration. And if you need a little more information, you can always drop by our website. Hey, I'm Danny Lipford. Thanks so much for being with us here on today's Homeowner.
Now that Danny has showed him how to use the saw properly, we're on it.
Properly, I know how to use a saw.
Properly.
Properly.
And my life is saved now. But look.
Be sure to join us next week as we help a family bring new life to their old deck with a low-maintenance approach.